CBSA, PHAC, and PCO.
Correct.
Okay. Is that something you'd be able to provide to the committee, the frequency of those meetings and when they occurred?
Yes, the frequency of meetings that occurred with CBSA, Public Health Agency, and PCO in regard to the
Okay.
Arrive Canada. Yes.
Thank you. I'll turn to you, Ms. You're good with that? That's, yeah. No, you don't expand it, but go ahead.
No. I just want a clarification. Did that include Minister Haidu and the PCO? Your description?
Okay, so PCO was mentioned. Ministerial would be different. So I'm going to let you come back to that because you guys have you have another round. We have agreement on this. Ms. Yip, there is agreement, but you have the floor on a point of order if you like, and then I'm going to turn to you. You'll have the floor after your point of order.
Okay. So, well, first of all...
Is this point of order?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is a lot of production documents.
Ms. Yip, I will stop. The witness has agreed to provide the documents. Normally, the committee looks for an answer in about 2 weeks, at which point we begin to make inquiries. But it has been agreed to from the minister. So, pardon me, from the witness. So, I need to know what your point of order is.
Oh, well, it would have been better if we could have had this discussion as a committee.
Well, okay, Ms. Yip, you now have the floor for 5 minutes. Over to you.
Okay. Okay, we are over the time at 12.
We are not yet over the time. We started late, and we're still going through it. And it is my intention to get through the full round, which will give our colleagues, the Bloc and the NDP, time after you as well. Then we'll wrap things up in the normal round.
Okay. Although the Auditor General only made one recommendation to PHAC, I'd still like to know if there are any current action plans. What is happening right now? For example, at 1.47, PHAC has stated it will update guidance or checklists with respect to file documentation, noting requirements to document interactions with potential contractors. What progress can you report on this?
Both the recommendations that were made by the procurement ombuds will be completed by next month and are on track. We have taken steps to codify the need for IT project governance as part of our emergency preparedness planning. We have stood up a contract management committee that will have oversight across the agency of all contracts. And we have renewed our training and checklists in terms of the documentation that needs to be provided for contracting and are reinforcing the requirements of the directives across the agency.
So how will these requirements be actually monitored and enforced?
So the training of our staff can be tracked. We will have regular reporting requirements, and there will continue to be internal controls exercised reviewing and sampling contracts.
Okay. And so there is also a review of the current process in place to ensure compliance with file documentation as per Treasury Board directives on the management of procurement by October 31st, 2024. Why will it take the agency over 7 months to verify that its practices are compliant with the directive?
So what we had hoped to accomplish by that time is the regular sampling and testing to make sure that the documentation has been taking place in the normal course of business on contracts that we're entering into. So that is a requirement by which time we'll have tested the effective implementation of the measures.
So how close are you to this directive in terms of completing?
Well, the requirements are in place as of now, and so we are going to be doing further review and training to make sure that, given the number of new staff that have joined the agency through the pandemic years, have the same level of training and comfort with the directives, and then we are going to be monitoring and verifying compliance with the implementation.
My last question to the Auditor General. After hearing all these questions and testimonies, is there anything else you would add for PHAC?
I mean, if I was looking at going forward, what I'd like to see some of the departments and agencies do is think about how to find a way when it comes to IT procurement to upskill public service. So that while you might turn to a contractor to get a skill that you don't need to employ 365 days a year, you still need to worry about upskilling the public service to be more digital. In that vein, I would encourage departments and agencies to think about things that might need to be digitized, things that are normally done on paper, and so that we're not doing it in an emergency, because the need to react quickly shouldn't be used as a reason not to follow good procurement rules, good project management practices, and definitely good financial record keeping.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yep. Madame Sekla Degangi, vous avez parole pour 2 minutes 30 secondes, s'il vous plaît.
You have 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Thank you, Chair. I would like to continue my line of questioning started before. I was uneasy hearing you talk about the size of the public service, because even if it's a small organization, there are hundreds of SMEs in the country that are able to prepare a budget with 300 employees and are able to follow up what they're doing. We do agree that the size of the Public Health Agency of Canada did not justify the fact that there was no budget, no follow-up, or that no questions were asked about the development of the application and about who. So your question was because you asked why, and then when I was answering, I talked about the size. I do agree that all these circumstances are just what it is, circumstances. We still need accountability, and the Treasury Board Secretary did give the right guidance to the public service to be more flexible, do things quickly, but still ensure accountability. So why were those recommendations from the Treasury Board not respected? That's a question you should put to the department and to those concerned. Ms. Jeffrey, concretely, you've just heard what we said. I said that SMEs are able to prepare a budget, ensure oversight, and even follow Treasury Board recommendations. Was this mere negligence, or was there a desire to simply look the other way?
In the face of a global pandemic with multiple lines of operation across borders, vaccine procurement, therapeutics, and all the other aspects of public health response meant that insufficient attention was paid to the governance structure of this project, which we regret and which we have undertaken to rectify in future.
30 sekunder kvar.
30 seconds left. Very well. I think I've heard enough. Thank you. Thank you.
You have the floor for 2.5 minutes. Over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I do want to now turn again to the last question I left off on, which was in relation to the non-competitive and the competitive process that was undertaken by the Public Health Agency of Canada in regards to GC strategies and KPMG. President of the Public Health Agency of Canada, you mentioned that the KPMG was selected amongst a list of vendors that was known to the agency as to the qualification reasons given in answering my question as to why that agency was selected. You responded that it was because of a list of known contractors. Can you supply that list of known contractors and when those known contractors were added to that list, in addition to how long that list has been operating?
This was a global professional services procurement vehicle established by PSPC, and they established the contracts with each of the 7 vendors.
Could you provide that to this committee, please?
Yes.
Thank you very much. And can you also, in addition to that, add the date to which those companies were added to that list?
This is probably a question that I would suggest you ask our PSPC officials, who I believe are appearing tomorrow in front of this committee. The Public Service Agency of Canada was not involved in establishing the list.
Thank you for that. I do appreciate the recommendation. However, it doesn't devoid your ministry or department of accountability when it was your department that was the business owner of this project, and you should have asked those questions to the Public Service Agency of Canada before operating those contracts. And so my final question is in relation to moving forward in terms of the Public Health Agency of Canada's operational work in regards to how it will manage future contracts. I think it's unfortunate that the Auditor General had to recommend such basic levels of qualification for good governance. And I would say those basic levels of qualification are important for me to ask now that you commit to the findings of the Auditor General. And would you also submit to the fact of following up with us in 1 year's time as to how you've implemented these recommendations of the Auditor General?
We have regular reporting requirements, and we will be reporting back on the management response to the Auditor General's report.
And do you have any last, I'll give you 10 seconds just remaining for any final comments you may have to this committee.
My final comment is that I would welcome the findings of the Auditor General's report that while it was an unprecedented emergency response to a global pandemic that had not been faced before by the agency, there were severe operational requirements for urgent response. There nonetheless is a requirement to document and to have in place governance. We have taken that lesson, and while I'm very proud of the response of the agency in terms of the services delivered to Canadians and in terms of protecting health and safety through the delivery of border services, vaccines, therapeutics, and other critical public health elements of the response. We can and will do better in terms of the governance put in place around these projects in the future going forward.
Thank you, witnesses, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you all very much. Mr. Brock, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Scam boondoggle has to have consequences. It's little comfort to the Canadians who are watching this that you're going to do better the next time, that this pandemic was a once-in-a-lifetime issue. You had all the structures in place and you failed to follow through. Your agency, the CBSA, PSPC, consequences. Apart from Cameron McDonald and Antonio Utano, have you suspended, with or without pay, any of your employees involved in this scandal? Yes or no?
No, there have been no findings of wrongdoing or investigations into Public Health Agency of Canada employees, and no employees have been suspended.
Right. You can only imagine the Canadian taxpayer who are going right now through organizing their taxes, Canadian businesses.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ms. Khalid.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just trying to figure out how long we are going on this meeting.
Yeah,
I do have other obligations.
Yeah, I'll answer you. We Mr. Brock and then Ms. Bradford, and then we'll end it for the day.
Okay, thank you so very much. Appreciate that.
And you,
Brock,
and
you
you
have
have a
4 minutes
classic
left.
example how the Liberals want to deflect attention away from this.
Point of order
So
again,
Canadian
Mr. Chair.
Okay,
I was trying to get clarification. I have other things going on throughout
wasn't a
my
point
day
of order.
to support my constituents. I am so sorry. I don't like to be blamed by the Conservatives for just trying to get to my constituents with a sham meeting that we have had right now.
All right, Ms. Khalid, thank you. Mr. Brock, you have the floor for 4 minutes, please.
Businesses and taxpayers are going through the tax process right now. One can only imagine the consequences to taxpayers and Canadian business owners for the shoddy way that your agency, the CBSA, and the PSPC documented their affairs. There would be consequences. The CRA would be levying consequences, if not calling